based on the principles of free enterprise and wealth creation. As currently testing, we hope to see that.
Hello, hello, mic test. Hello, 1 2 3 4. Hello, hello.
या पहले वॉल्यूम थोड़ा नहीं हो रहा। अभी हमने इसमें ना अपने सिर्फ ये रशियन वाले का नाम देते थे, बाकी तो only their post. That is Mr. Muraj post. नाम देते थे, बाकी अदर एक्सीलेंसेस जो भी है रियल एक्सीलेंसेस yes. उसको बोले मैंने चेंज करके बोला ना, वो वाला फर्दर वाला भेज दिया, नीचे से लेके जाना है। सभी जो वाले पाकिस्तान की राजस्थान तजिकिस्तान
ठीक है, ठीक है।
morning, dear friends. I'm happy to see you all here and welcome you to the SEO Ministers of Healthcare meeting. We are based in the Russian Federation in Moscow. So on behalf of the President of the Russian Federation, on behalf of the government, the Ministry of Healthcare and myself, I'm happy to welcome you all to this meeting. This is an SEO Ministers of Healthcare meeting. We have here representatives of observer countries and our partners, as well as members of international organizations. So, as you may know, in 2020, Russian Federation continues to chair SEO for the period of its chairmanship. Russia has scheduled a number of events devoted to a number of topics, including healthcare. I'd like to remind you that the last SEO Healthcare Ministers meeting took place during Russia's previous chairmanship in 2015. During this 5-year period, there were no SEO Healthcare Ministers meetings. And we are really proud to have the honor of hosting the next meeting 5 years later. However, life is changing and the circumstances are changing as well, and presently we are unable to meet with you face to face here in Moscow. We are conducting this meeting in the online format, in the format of a video conference, and COVID-19 in our countries. The world has seen epidemics before. However, presently, in the times of global mutual ties, virus is sweepingly spreading across all continents. For the first time in history of the healthcare system, the world has faced such a large-scale and very challenging situation. New virus infections spread when there are no pharmaceutical tools to manage the epidemic process. So this creates additional complexities. This is a challenge for the health, safety of the population of our countries. So this problem requires consolidation of efforts of specialists from around the world, from the scientific and global community, but unfortunately medical specialists and personnel as well in all countries. So we are paying our respects to the memory of our deceased colleagues, and we value their professional heroic deed. Is the best platform for the joint search of most efficient solutions for global and regional problems. So we are all gathered here today in order to discuss main achievements of our countries due to the outbreak of coronavirus and discuss the roadmap for the steps. And hopefully that the issues that we're going to discuss today will become a good starting point, a good basis for the meeting of ministers in St. Petersburg. And the meeting of heads of states. And now I would like to give floor to the special envoy to SEO, Mr. Hakimov. Thank you very much, dear colleagues, friends. First of all, I would like to express my gratitude and admiration to those who've been working really hard on the front line of defense in order to protect the well-being of people. I would like to thank the specialists. Thank you for your heroic deeds, for everything that you're doing for all of us. We're all here, and this is the SEO Ministers of Healthcare meeting, even though pandemic is not gone. Even though the Minister has just said that this is one of the best platforms for future cooperation and this is the best platform for discussion of all topics. But today we're talking about healthcare, and this is becoming a priority. ASEO is developing, and in 2021 ASEO is going to turn 20 years old. So everyone considers ASEO to be a very influential participant and a reliable partner for many international organizations and countries. So in this regard, and now that Russia is chairing ASEO in 2020, President Putin has identified the following priorities for our work: consolidation of member countries, embedding ASEO into the network of partners, strengthening organizations' position in terms of safety and security, focus on integration and building big Eurasia, and ensuring open and transparent partnerships. We also need to expand economic cooperation, first of all in transportation, digitalization, infrastructure, energy, and ensuring product and food security. Of course, one of the priorities for the Russian Federation is networking, ethical values, improving environment, education, healthcare. Of course, this year we are paying special attention to the 75th anniversary of victory in World War II, and another anniversary, the UN anniversary. That is why we need to strengthen our position in the United Nations, because this is a very influential organization. And I must say that pandemic has become a test for all of us and for all international organizations. We need to understand that there are lessons learned and conclusions drawn from this situation, and we also need to understand what are the next steps to improve our work. So in this context, the Ministry of Healthcare came up with a number of measures, in particular develop a review, and we think it's a very important step. We support this initiative, and Minister of Foreign Affairs conducted a meeting on the 13th of May in the format of a video conference where they discussed the plan for the future, how ASEO or member countries, what they can do in order to ensure safety and security, including biosafety. We have 90 plus measures and actions on our list. We managed to implement most of them, but still things are changing, then they keep changing, and we have to adjust. So this is a new format for ASEO, a video conference format, online format. I'm sure this is a positive experience, but I really hope that someday we'll be able to meet face to face, in person, talk to each other, and look each other in the eyes and actually work together. The most important thing is that Russian chairmanship is targeted at organizing a meeting of heads of states. Possibly the timing is right, and all heads of states will be able to come to St. Petersburg and meet each other so that they could discuss in person all the relevant issues. So I wish every success in all your endeavors, and I wish you a fruitful meeting, and I'm sure that together we'll be able to do quite a lot and succeed. Thank you very much. Thank you. So following our agenda, I would like to make a short presentation and tell you what is being done in the Russian Federation in order to mitigate the coronavirus risks and consequences. First of all, I would like to start by saying that all the measures that we have on our list, next slide please. All the measures that we have on our list, the measures to counter COVID-19 pandemic, were based on the well-organized and well-structured system. Here in the Russian Federation, we have an up and running network of relevant hospitals, and we have well-trained personnel. So all the measures that we have developed in the Russian Federation are based on this system. Vertically integrated and a really well-structured medical service that is in charge of epidemics. It's also in place. We have special services related to medical insurance, so they are always there to support and help, which is good because in this situation we had a chance to ensure access to all medical services for all our citizens. I know that in some countries it was not that easy. Some countries experienced challenges. We have created a number of bodies in order to align the process across the country. So first of all, I'm talking about the high-level tactic groups. We had teams working in the government, in the ministries, and in the regions. We also have institutions in charge of coordinating the fight against coronavirus. It's worth mentioning that one of the key elements was creation of a single resource where we could accumulate information most relevant, most up-to-date. And we also have created a huge resource. It's called Stop Coronavirus. It's available all across the Russian Federation, and the population could get access and read more about coronavirus and what needs to be done in order to prevent coronavirus. The first cases were identified on the 31st of January 2020. We had to ensure proper control on the borders, and Russian Federation had to restrict access in order to prevent wider spread of coronavirus. We have mobilized our healthcare system. We have developed common approaches towards treatment of this disease. We have adjusted regulation. As for medical supplies, we have addressed this issue as well. We managed to implement more measures, social distancing and quarantine, and thanks to that we managed to stop the spread. And as we know, on the 25th of March, quarantine was introduced and it lasted for 6 weeks. We have created special information system in order to monitor and trace contacts of those who were infected, and we also created social support system and services. We managed to stabilize situation and reduce the number of infected by 27%. We have dramatically reduced the number of patients who were severely infected, and we had a number of regulatory documents developed, number of recommendations and other supporting documents in order to regulate the communication. And on this slide, as you can see, the overall number of infected people amounts to almost 800,000. Number of those who got well, 580,000. We have 85 regions in the Russian Federation. Unfortunately, they've all been hit by coronavirus, and depending on the region, depending on the situation, they have different measures still in place. It's worth mentioning that one of the objectives was the indicator of mortality. This is one of the lowest indicators, but our medics are working 24/7, trying to save more lives. I must say that in the Russian Federation, during a short period of time, we managed to create special test systems. We are testing the new coronavirus and the possible vaccine against coronavirus. One of the key elements was the personnel training system. We used video workshops and online training in order to train and educate medical personnel. And 1.5 million specialists managed to take this training. And later they were able to treat coronavirus patients. A special block was devoted to safety and security of medical personnel. As they were working with those who were infected, this was contagious, so it was very dangerous for them. We have developed a number of rules and emergency response plans. We have developed methodological recommendations for doctors, and we've been updating them every 2-3 weeks. Every 2-3 weeks we've been issuing new versions. And today we are working on the 8th version of recommendations, and we are updating recommendations for those who managed to overcome the disease and are now getting well, now getting better. So ever since that, we never had issues related to placing patients in the hospital. So just like in any other country of the world, in the beginning we experienced some problems related to PPEs.
So therefore we had to stop production of PPEs for the healthcare workers and for the population. The pharmaceutical industry, within a very brief period of time, managed to restructure itself and to produce a number of medicines which allow us to somehow take control of the situation. Also, I'd like to note the fact that all the drugs and medications which we used were tested for the use both in vitro and in vivo, and the testing was done in a very brief period of time. We managed to produce the generic drugs of Mirpiramir, and as far as this pandemic was connected to the autoimmune diseases, we produced several drugs in order to block the citizine storm. So purely Russian-made drugs, which now are delivered to the healthcare centers and are being used in the ICUs. Within a very brief period of time, we managed to develop the so-called candidate vaccines, and some of them are at different stages of the clinical tests, including the last stage of the test. Therefore, we are following that way, the way of somehow approaching the pharmaceutically controlled situation. And finally, at the very end of my presentation, I'd like to say that Russia, as a responsible member of the SCO, takes an active part in the global events and activities, bring together the healthcare ministers who are present today at that meeting. We are communicating with them regularly. We provide mutual assistance to each other. And I'd like to say that the Russian Federation does a lot in order to contain and control COVID-19. But I appreciate very much the countries which share their experience and best practices. This is something which we're going to discuss today. So I appreciate the efforts to make our work more efficient. Our work should become more secure and safer for the healthcare workers. The documents which we have prepared and the joint efforts which we are taking hopefully will allow us to mitigate and eliminate that problem and to proceed with building a more secure situation, that we are immune from the infections and diseases. With this we can react more rapidly. Thank you so much for your attention, and I pass on the floor to my colleague, my counterpart from India, Mr. Vardhan. Over to you, Mr. Minister, Your Excellency.
His Excellency, Minister of Health of the Russian Federation, Mr. Vorashko, dear Excellencies and distinguished members present on this prestigious forum. At the very outset, I wish to express my deep condolences at the loss of lives across the world due to COVID-19. I also take this opportunity to express my sincere gratitude for the efforts of those who are in the front line of this battle. The world is faced with an unprecedented disaster which has so far affected the entire planet, leading to close to 15 million cases and 0.6 million deaths globally. We in India undertook the COVID-19 challenge with the highest level of political commitment. Our Honorable Prime Minister, Mr. Narendra Modi, personally monitored the situation and ensured a preemptive, proactive and graded response, leaving no stones unturned to contain the deadly virus from spreading. India has so far reported 1.25 million cases and more than 30,000 deaths due to COVID. India has one of the lowest cases and deaths per million population, which is 864 cases per million and less than 21 deaths per million of our population. Our recovery rate stands at 63.45%, whereas our mortality is amongst the lowest in the world at 2.3%. India started its preparedness measures much before the outbreak was even declared a public health emergency of international concern by the World Health Organization. A series of actions were initiated in a graded way that included issuing of travel advisories, point of entry surveillance, community-based surveillance, enhancement of laboratory and hospital surge capacities, wide dissemination of technical guidelines on managing different aspects of disease outbreak and communicating risk to the public. In an attempt to decelerate the transmission of the disease, India took some very bold steps like implementing a nationwide lockdown in the very initial stages. 3 consecutive lockdowns provided India with much required time and opportunity to build up on technical know-how, laboratory capacities, hospital infrastructure, and also to build up its pharmaceutical laboratories capable of testing RT-PCR. We have performed more than 15 million RT-PCR tests so far and are now performing more than 0.35 million tests per day with a projected quantum of performing 1 million tests per day. The TrueNet and CBNet machines have been repurposed for testing COVID-19. Additionally, point-of-care antigen-based testing has been introduced in a major way in containment zones. Today we have over 15,000 COVID treatment facilities with a total isolation bed capacity of 1.4 million. Local technology has been harnessed to set up temporary hospitals for housing up to 10,000 patients in a single establishment. In terms of logistics, India did not have a single manufacturer of personal protective equipment, and now the country has developed indigenous capacity in the past few months to the extent that the country can export quality PPEs. Similar scaling up was also done for achieving other indigenous capacity and reducing the demand and supply gap for ventilators and medical oxygen. We have made use of information technology in virtually every aspect of COVID management. Arogya Setu app and Itihas, a cellular-based tracking technology, have been used for surveillance and identification of potential clusters of disease. RT-PCR app for testing, facility app for managing information on admitted patients and hospital bed capacities, all integrated with a single COVID portal. Various cadres of personnel and volunteers beyond health sectors have been identified and trained to create a 15.9 million strong army of COVID warriors. To build their capacities, training resources have been made available through online training modules and webinars. To bring about behavioral change in India's diverse communities, communication material and toolkits have been developed and disseminated in local languages. Excellencies, India has taken all necessary steps well in time, including surveillance, strengthening of health infrastructure, capacity building of over 2 million frontline human resources, risk communication, and community involvement. I think we did our best and we did well. We are learning and we are confident of doing better in the months to come. To address present and future challenges, the public health research agenda for COVID has been accelerated to advance an affordable vaccine in the near future. Indian pharma and biotechnology industry are also geared up for manufacturing drugs and diagnostics. The Indian traditional system of medicine has also contributed substantially in boosting the immunity of general population. Such complementary medicine systems are widely practiced in all member states of our Shanghai Cooperation Organization. However, there is currently no institutional mechanism within SCO to discuss cooperation in traditional medicines that has the potential to fulfill the WHO Traditional Medicine Strategy 2014-2023 and also reinforce the effective implementation of the joint statement on cooperation in combating epidemics signed by the Qingdao Summit in 2018. Taking the above into consideration, India would like to propose the setting up of a new subgroup on traditional medicine under the existing institutional meetings of the SCO health ministers. In order to discuss this proposal and to identify areas of cooperation, India has already circulated on 26 June 2020 a concept paper on holding an online seminar on the role of traditional systems of medicine for attaining the sustainable development goals in SCO member states. India seeks the kind support of all member states for its proposal to set up a separate subgroup on traditional medicine under the health ministers meeting. In this hour of crisis, I call upon all member countries of this prestigious group to work together and combat COVID to mitigate its impact on health and economy. In congratulating all those who are striving to save humanity, we welcome efforts to make all international institutions more reflective of 21st century realities. India will always stand with such efforts to foster meaningful and broad-based changes. I close my speech today with a loud applause for all those across the world who are at the forefront of this battle against the deadly virus. I stand here to honor the doctors, the nurses, the paramedics, the scientists, the journalists, the army and paramilitary forces, the airport personnel, the delivery boys and the sanitation staff. The important roles who are today playing superhumans. They are our real heroes. Thank you, our Corona warriors. You are no less than God for humanity. Thank you, Excellencies.
Thank you so much. Your Excellency, Mr. Minister. I'd like to pass the floor to Mr. Tsoi, Alexei. We are communicating regularly with him, so over to you, Kazakhstan. Kazakhstan, please unmute your mic. Yes, we can hear you now. Thank you so much. Can you hear us? Yes, we can hear you. Thank you so much. SCO is one of the most influential organizations in the world and contributes to increasing and improving the livelihoods and living standards of the SCO member states. It contributes to the social and cultural development in the region. Cooperation within the SCO is marked by equality, respect to the diversity of the cultures, and strive to mutual development. The pandemic has become a test for cooperation for all of us. It has shown the key importance of and significance of the international cooperation. When we have to assist each other, since the outbreak of the pandemic, we keep in touch with everyone and provide mutual assistance to everyone. I'd like to take advantage of this opportunity to express my gratitude and my appreciation to all the countries which provide humanitarian and medical help to Kazakhstani people. I'd like to mark the high level of cooperation which we have between the healthcare systems of the SCO member states. And we're confident that the victory over this pandemic is close and can be reached only by joint and coordinated measures, which is noted in the final statement which we have to approve at the end of the day. In the recent days, we see the trend to stabilization of the situation in Kazakhstan. Actually, our morbidity rate is at the level of 1700 cases per day, in line with the regular rates. We really involved in the consultations with the WHO, and therefore we register and identify COVID cases using the new standards. Therefore, the lab-proven COVID cases would be combined with the pneumonia. So once pneumonia is accompanied with the signs of COVID-19, Kazakhstan, along with other countries, takes into consideration only lab-tested and lab-confirmed and proven cases. So we are using the updated classification of the diseases since the 1st of August this year. Healthcare Ministry realizes that once we shift to this new standard, we will drop in terms of our rating on how we fight against that disease. But the new standards will allow us to plan our resources appropriately. We will be able to manage our beds and provide for the transparency of the statistical data.
We can fight coronavirus together, and we can join forces with the global community. We think that if we adopt WHO's recommendations, it will be a good example for other countries. This has been supported by WHO, and it's a good opportunity to stress the importance of communication and medical measures that are being undertaken. We are working hard on all those measures, and it's very important to mention that classification in every country is in line with the globally approved classification. For every disease there's a code, and you can get access to this data and compare the data. As for code designing, there's a special classification that can be used as a reference, and I suggest that SCO member countries support this proposal and follow this example, follow this model, because only this is going to help us to achieve the transparency that we're after. On the 24th of July, we had 78,000 plus of infected people. 49,000 plus people have recovered from coronavirus. Taking into account the World Odometer's rating, Kazakhstan is number 28, as for mortality, number 53, as for number of recovered, 58. We have increased number of places for patients in hospitals. We have reduced number of patients in emergency rooms, and at the moment we have, unfortunately, the speaker is breaking, there's no sound. Presently, as for our hospitals and clinics, we have 3,000 plus medical teams. They are providing medical aid at homes. They are treating patients, and they also conduct tests. They monitor their condition and provide any other assistance when needed, and they also supply free of charge treatment and medicine. Of course, this is a global challenge and a big threat to the ASEO development, so I suggest we strengthen our cooperation in the following areas. We need to ensure health, safety and security. We need to focus on the quality of medical supplies. We need to join forces and identify further steps. Using digitalization can help us in these difficult times to fight coronavirus. Development of medical tourism is also one of the key areas that we need to focus on. I hope that our joint work will help us overcome this pandemic and address all the issues that we have on our list. On our part, we are prepared to conduct a meeting for medical personnel in October 2020 in Nur Sultan, and we invite all member states and observer states to join us at this meeting. Thank you for your attention. This concludes my presentation. Thank you, Alexey Vladimirovich. Thank you very much for your presentation, for letting us know what is going on in your country, what is your experience. And now I would like to give floor to our next speaker, the chairman of the healthcare system from China, Mr. Tsai Weiwei. We've known each other for a long time now. You used to be a deputy minister back then, and I was working in the surveillance body in the Russian Federation, so I'm really happy to see you here, and over to you, Minister. Mr. Marashko, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. I'm really happy to see you all here. This time we have a video conference. Of course, this is a very important milestone in fighting coronavirus, but the most important thing is that we are here, that we can exchange our experience and knowledge. We will talk about international cooperation and what is being done in order to prevent the spread of coronavirus. And on behalf of our ministry, I would like to express our gratitude to the chairman of this meeting. Thank you very much for organizing such a high-level meeting. And I would also like to welcome all the participants from ASEO member countries. Of course, pandemic is a huge challenge for all of our countries. Unfortunately, it's a big problem, and I would like to pay my respects to those doctors and medical specialists whose lives were taken by this horrible virus. As for China, we lost a lot of lives as well. At the same time, thanks to that, we managed to achieve quite a lot. We've been quite successful in countering coronavirus. From the very beginning, when the virus started to spread, we managed to contain the virus and limit and restrict the spread of virus across China. I must say that it goes without saying that human life is the most precious thing. And our president, Xi Jinping, mentioned not once that we need new approach towards coronavirus. We need to develop prevention measures, anti-pandemic measures in China, in all regions. And that could have helped us to adopt a more holistic approach towards this problem and finally succeed. We have implemented a number of measures related to coronavirus. We had to amend our legislation and implement some restriction measures. All of this helped us to prevent further spread of coronavirus in some of the provinces. Our system is first of all based on the early detection, early awareness and early treatment. And it helps us reduce the level of mortality and increase the number of those who recovered from virus. As soon as we identify the infected person, within 2 hours we conduct all the tests, and within the next 24 hours we do everything possible in order to prevent further spread and help the person infected with the virus. So we can actually guarantee that within a very short period of time we can prevent virus from further spread, and in particular, if you take the situation in Wuhan province, in some regions we've implemented some restrictive measures which actually help us prevent the spread. As for PCR analysis, we're doing the best we can, and we're conducting tests, and of course when we detect higher temperature than usual, we prefer to take the test, to make a test and undertake respective measures. The system that we currently have in place, on the one hand, it helps optimize and bring together all the doctors and medical personnel. On the other hand, all patients are in one place and we can help them promptly. As I said, it takes 24 hours to implement all the necessary measures and prepare the report. And then we resort to science and technology. Then it takes another 16 days. We make tests, blood tests and others. During this whole period, we've been taking the situation very seriously, and we'd be happy to share all the materials and information that we have. And we've been working closely so far with 180 countries, 180, and we are prepared to conduct more thorough negotiations, more detailed negotiations. We are eager to help other countries, and we have around 150 countries that we have supplied necessary medical supplies, and we are eager to do so for other countries. Ladies and gentlemen, COVID-19 is a huge pandemic, horrible pandemic, and we are faced with a very serious challenge and threat. We noticed that in the very beginning, coronavirus hit only some countries, but unfortunately it's spreading. So we need to join forces and fight virus together. I have 3 proposals, if I may. First of all, the role that WHO can play. And based on science and technology, we are prepared to fight coronavirus. We think that WHO may play a very important and key role. We are developing our relationship with our partners. We are discussing possible measures because we want to prevent coronavirus from further spread. Next, as soon as we create a network, we need to do something similar within SCO, between SCO and the countries, because such mechanism would help us to be even more efficient against virus. It is well known that within our SCO partnership, we could work on other issues as well, which would help us improve overall safety and security in our countries. So our today's meeting is the meeting of SCO member countries, health ministers, and of course our main topic is COVID-19. But this meeting is very important, very relevant, but I'm sure that together we'll be able to conquer, we'll be able to promote our Silkway initiative and keep moving forward. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you for your proposals. We will consider them. And now I would like to give floor to the Deputy Minister of Kyrgyzstan. Mr. Karatai, over to you.
Уважаемый Михаил Альбертович, уважаемые
Thank you.
участники, Позвольте приветствовать вас на третьем совещании министров здравоохранения государств, участников Шанхайской организации сотрудничества. Пользуясь случаем, хочу выразить признательность организаторам сегодняшней встречи в онлайн-режиме, в целом российской стороне за председательство ШОС в это нелегкое время. Пользуясь случаем, уважаемый Михаил Альбертович, хотелось бы выразить благодарность вам, российской стороне, за ту гуманитарную помощь, за ту помощь, которую вы оказываете. Вот вчера приехала Олег Владимирович Гриднев, тоже говорили, большая бригада специалистов, врачей, иммунологов, врачей, которые готовы для оказания медицинской помощи нашим объектам, учреждениям, нашим больницам. Хочу выразить благодарность вам всем.
And I would like to express my gratitude in general to all those doctors, medical personnel and other specialists in healthcare that are working on the front line, on the first line of defense, fighting COVID-19, saving lives. In order to prevent COVID-19 from entering further spread, we are working hard on identifying and isolating infected individuals and those who had contacts with those infected. I would like to say that Mr. Toy already mentioned this, but since 17th of July, we have statistics related to pneumonia and COVID cases. Of course, we had an outbreak. The last day shows that we have 15,460 confirmed cases, and during the last day, 260. When we talk about pneumonia, we mean that pneumonia cases is included in the overall list of cases. However, sometimes statistics is deteriorating. As I said, on the 17th of July, we have merged the two statistics, the two formats. So, as of today, we have 31,000 cases plus. Of course, we are interested in number of deaths, the level of mortality. If, for example, we're talking about 990, that's pneumonia, 25 is COVID-19.
In the last 3 days, we see some stabilization of the situation, and we have about 40 death cases a day. There used to be times when we had more than 170 death cases a day. So we have necessarily, so we're increasing the number of beds in the inpatient facilities. In the Jewish region, for instance, according to the recent statistics, we see that we identify a rapid growth in the number of cases. We have deployed more than 3,500 beds in the city of Bishkek to accommodate the COVID-19 patients. What you said, Mr. Moroshko, you have the 8th version of the medical recommendations, and that's good. And now that there is the 4th edition of the regulations on how to treat COVID-19. For instance, we had to make certain amendments into the clinical protocols and into the clinical regulations. I think that we would appreciate any organizational and methodological assistance and help from the NCO member states. And the pandemic, what has been noted, we have to bring together our efforts in order to take urgent measures to mitigate and eliminate the pandemic. could be extended to share best practices, including the increase in the technological, methodological, and medical potential in the fight against that disease. What Ms. Pshenichная, Deputy Director for the Central R&D Institute for Viruses and Vaccines, said that your R&D Institute is doing its best in order to develop new drugs and new medications, but would like to get from you the vaccines and drugs as a grant, because at the moment our R&D institutes have no capacity to develop the state-of-the-art medications. We hope that this event and the efforts deployed by all the SL member states will help us to contain COVID-19. Kyrgyzstan is ready for exchange of data, exchange of statistical information, and we will appreciate a methodological and technical assistance from the SL member states. Thank you so much for your attention. Thank you. Thank you for your intervention. And certainly we will continue our cooperation and interaction. What you said in terms of systems, in terms of drugs and medications, we'll get in touch with you. But saying that, I'd like to pass the floor to Director General for Healthcare of the Ministry of National Services of Healthcare and Regulation and Coordination of Islamic Republic of Pakistan, Mr. Malik Muhammad Safi. Over to you, Pakistan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairperson. Honorable Ministers, ladies and gentlemen, at the outset, let me express Pakistan's profound appreciation of the stewardship role of Health Minister Russia for convening this virtual meeting and bringing health ministers and stakeholders together for sharing of knowledge and experience in responding to the COVID pandemic, which is no doubt the defining crisis of our time. As we all know, that the challenges for health in developing nations are greater due to their economic situation and existing inadequate health infrastructure. We are cognizant of the fact that ending the epidemic will require sustained and collective efforts of all individuals, communities, governments to continue with suppression and mitigation strategies to avoid the consequences of this deadly virus. The countries must now ensure that they can detect, test, isolate and care for every case and trace every contact allowed. The global progression of the pandemic has clearly demonstrated that no single country could protect itself and overcome the challenges on its own. Since the declaration of global pandemic, the disease has had a devastating impact across the globe on morbidity, mortality, burden on health systems, and on national and global economies. It is Pakistan's hope that the collective wisdom of SCO countries through this august platform can be used for exchanging best practices, coordinating responses, and catalyzing the efforts for improved emergency preparedness and longer-term economic development. Mr. Chairman, the current COVID pandemic has posed unprecedented challenges to all countries, including Pakistan. Since the first case was reported on 26th of February 2020 in Pakistan, today we have 270,000 cases confirmed, which are being reported, with almost 5,709 deaths, with a CFR of 2.1%, which is significantly lower than the initial international projections, especially considering that Pakistan is the fifth most populous country in the world. Pakistan has focused its response through its national strategy to combat COVID-19, prevent, control and respond to mitigate the health impacts of the pandemic. It included early establishment of multi-sectoral coordination mechanism with the whole government approach at the highest of level, which was chaired by Prime Minister of Pakistan. This enabled close working relationship between federal and provincial governments. Through this plan, the overarching strategy of test, trace, and quarantine is being pursued and operationalized. I would like to thank and acknowledge the role of frontline workers and security agencies along with the partners for their supporting the fight against COVID emergency. Being sensitive to the frontline healthcare workers health due to their increased incidence of being affected on the WeCare program for psychosocial and psychological support to reduce the stress and anxiety which they are facing. We are also training them on national use of personal protective equipment, similarly critical and ICU case management training program is in the process. While public awareness messages for social distancing, hand washing and use of face masks are being made, and also we have a helpline which has been established for the general public. In order to support the vulnerable segments of the society, the Government of Pakistan has initiated a new social protection program and a self-relief package for health and social protection and food security to mitigate economic hardships. Additionally, tax exemption for import of essential medical equipment and supplies has been made. Moreover, timely suppressive strategies comprising of an effective mix of measures such as smart lockdowns, suspension of international and domestic travel, ban on large public gatherings, closure of schools and markets are being implemented. We must realize that effective vaccines against COVID-19 are urgently needed to protect populations and restart economies. Where they can, governments are funding the development of vaccines and making arrangements with vaccine manufacturers. Pakistan has also joined the consultation for the COVAX facility at Gavi and is expected to receive support to the Gavi COVAX window in order to immunize 20% of their population. Moreover, bilateral channels are also being explored to ensure availability of COVAX vaccine. Pakistan would like to recommend some key priorities for cooperation between SCO members, which includes investment for strengthening core capacities under national health regulations, improved pandemic response financing mechanism, enhancement in cooperation amongst the member states for epidemiological surveillance and cross-border strategies, to rethink beyond COVID-19 and focus on strengthening primary healthcare services and therefore ensuring continuity of essential health services and future public health events. To conclude, Pakistan would like to state that all member states of SCO have to play a role by pursuing scientific knowledge to bring about meaningful and equitable changes to how the world will respond to such crises in the future. I thank you all.
Thank you so much. And you said about cooperation through Gavi and through WHO. This is what we support. We support these vectors of our cooperation. To say that, I'm passing the floor to the first Deputy Minister of Healthcare and Social Protection of Tajikistan, Mr. Muhsin Soza. Muhsin Soda, over to you. Can you hear me well? Can you hear me well? Yes, we can hear you very well. Thank you so much. Mr. Muhsin Soda. Dear Mr. Chair, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for this opportunity to participate in this August meeting of the SCO Healthcare Ministers. First of all, I'd like to thank the organizers of that meeting for very informative presentations made by the speakers. This is really a very good foundation for responding to COVID-19 in every country. I'd like to note the fact that Tajikistani government and our president, Mr. Emomali Rahmon, personally responsibility for containing all this COVID-19 disease. Unfortunately, as the experience of other countries showed, the measures which were taken from the very outset proved not to be very efficient, but as long as we started the experience of other countries, as long as we started launching our activities, which were based on the viral diagnostics and surveillance, as well as lab testing, step by step, we noted certain alleviation and improvement. I would like to note the experience of our country in terms of how we hospitalize the patients. Because the first days of the pandemic, of spreading of this virus, showed that all the beds in the hospitals were occupied by wrong patients, so to say, and therefore we had to update the algorithm and the protocol, and we introduced stricter rules for admitting patients to hospitals. Subsequent measures resulted in the fact that we were very specific about every household. You know that 93% of our republic is rural, and those who lived in the remote regions, they also were taken under control, they were taken into consideration. The experience which we have accumulated in the capital of the country, in the city of Dushanbe, we replicated in the most remote regions. Our targeted measures aimed at fighting against COVID-19 in every household, in every family, helped us to do a lot at the level of the primary healthcare centers. And we managed to differentiate the patients who needed first aid and urgent help. And we certainly controlled the lungs situation. We did X-ray control at the regional level and at the national level. And this helped us to differentiate all the patients, to sort them, even identifying the cases of COVID-19 which were not lab confirmed. This was done in order to alleviate the burden placed on the hospitals, and therefore we decreased the number of beds in the hospitals accommodating COVID patients. At the moment we have hundreds of patients who are admitted to the hospital, and thousands of cases without any symptoms, without any signs. We Sadly, I agree with the fact that we have to take into consideration and include into the statistics the cases which are confirmed by X-ray. We separately taking into consideration the lab negative but X-ray positive cases. Actually, this is registered as the recovery after COVID-19. We developed that the statistics of such morbidity and the primary identification of the patients with lab-confirmed tests may help us to localize our actions and focus our actions and efforts on where we can use our limited resources. I'd like to take advantage of this opportunity. I'd like to tell you about how our lab service works. We have about 8 labs. The ones which are deployed at the national level, unfortunately. We are lacking tests and test equipment, but we do everything possible in order to get these tests from everywhere we can. And this is quite promising. In the upcoming 2 or 3 weeks, we will embrace all the potential cases. For 4 weeks already, we have a very stable situation, and we try to take any measures possible in order to prevent the second. We are getting prepared for the seasonal flu. Our institutions have to be prepared in terms of providing free drugs and medications to the people. At the moment, we have developed a program when we can cover the potential outbreaks of any disease. We have about 12,000 beds vacant, and therefore we may accommodate any potential patients. Thank you so much for your attention.
Thank you very much. I'm really grateful that you mentioned anti-flu vaccination, because this is very challenging and dangerous times, and we need to think about the autumn and winter. As for us, we already have a number of agreements signed and contracts for the upcoming season. We don't want the 2 infections to hit us together. So once again, thank you very much. And now I would like to give floor to our next speaker, a colleague of mine with whom we've been working together, our colleague from Uzbekistan, Mr. Sharmanov. Over to you, please, Minister. Alisher Kayumovich, we can't hear you. Dear Mikhail, Minister, dear colleagues, Mr. Hans Kluge, I'd like to express my sincere gratitude to the Russian Federation for organizing such a big conference. Our meeting will help us develop a common approach, coordinate our actions, and understand further steps so that we could address the threats and challenges promptly. Our President has established and founded a special committee to address COVID-19 pandemic. We have introduced quarantine in the country. We have undertaken a number of actions and measures. In order to fight coronavirus, we've been working closely with hospitals. We've built 3 new hospitals, 600 beds each, and 4,000 hospital. We intend to expand the number of beds up to 10,000. We have a special clear zone for 20,000 beds. We have high-tech lab in place to fight COVID-19. We also have a high-tech center where we have developed a system of our own to detect coronavirus. It now has proper registration and bench tests have been conducted. They've been quite successful. As for PPEs, as of today, Uzbekistan has capacity to produce PPEs in the required amount. At the same time, as for cooperation in pharmaceutical area, we are working closely with the Russian Federation. At the moment, we have 731,000 medical supplies. We have 30 supplies of and vendors of drugs and medical supplies. We are also getting help from China, 359 pieces of equipment from 143 supplies and 161 medical supplies from 99 supplies. As for Uzbek medical company Nobel Pharm has registered a new cure, and at the moment they are finalizing the formalities. We are also working with Europac Labs, and in 1 month they intend to produce remdesivir cure. On a regular basis, we're conducting video conferences with leading specialists from SCO countries, from the Eurasian Union, from CIS countries, and video conferences with many other countries. We are exchanging experience and knowledge with specialists from Turkey, Russia, Germany, and many other countries. We have engaged German specialists working in microbiology and hygiene, Professor Vardhan. And also, we have engaged a number of consultants. They are working in our country. These are specialists from Turkey. At the same time, I must mention that in April this year, we have arranged a visit of Chinese specialists from Chinese province. They helped us a lot with our patients in order to prevent for the spread of COVID-19. We have implemented a number of measures in close cooperation with the WHO and European Regional Bureau. It's worth mentioning that from the very first day, WHO has been supporting us and still is supporting us and helping us with emergency measures. And as for light forms of infection, we have allowed for such patients to stay at home under the doctor's surveillance. Such patients with light form are supplied with free medical supplies. As of today, we have created another 50,000 medical supplies in store. This is our reserve. Around 23,000 of PCR tests are conducted daily. All in all, we had 1,800,000 tests conducted. In July, we have allowed private clinics to conduct tests. We are still monitoring the situation in the country, and on a daily basis, 52% those cases that came from other countries. That means that our citizens are coming back from vacations from other countries and they get infected in other countries and bring infection into our country. So we had to bring quarantine measures back. At the moment we have 986,000 cases. 10,000 plus patients are still in the hospitals. 8,000 plus patients are undergoing treatment. Some of them are in critical conditions, and we have 0.5% of mortality. Dear colleagues, I'd like to mention Mr. Norif's role in this fight against coronavirus. The chairman of SCO has done quite a lot, and he provided great support to Tajikistan. We would also like to express our gratitude to the Russian Federation and the Chinese People's Republic and all other members of SCO for all their help and invaluable support. Thank you very much, and I wish you patience, good health, peace, and well-being. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you, Alisher Kayumovich. This was a very interesting presentation. You are doing indeed quite a lot, and it looks like you are quite successful in fighting coronavirus. And right now, I'd like to give floor. So thank you to our previous speakers, and now I would like to give floor to our next speaker. Secretary General of ICO, Mr. Norif. Chairman, heads of delegations, ladies and gentlemen. I'm happy to see you all here. Welcome to this meeting. And I would like to express my gratitude to the Ministry of Healthcare of the Russian Federation for organizing this meeting. No doubt, in the situation that we're currently in, we're fighting COVID-19 pandemic. We've joined forces, we're working together, we're supporting each other. As experts say, the situation is still unstable. There's still a threat of the second wave. So the threat is still there. No doubt, all those factors require prompt response to new threats on part of SCO. We need to improve the regulatory base and mechanisms in healthcare. Ministers of Foreign Affairs of SCO member states mentioned and discussed this as well. This was on a video conference in May 2020. COVID-19 pandemic requires multilateral, inclusive measures with the support of the UN. In this context, I would like to mention the signing of the Memorandum of Understanding between SCO and WHO. We admit that OSCE, League of Arab States, UN and diplomatic corps in Beijing have done quite a lot to ensure safety and security in the region. In the letters that we are receiving, we see a lot of words of gratitude on the occasion of measures that have been implemented. Means that we need to keep going. We need to keep working on the mechanisms and coordinate our actions and measures within SCO. We have done quite a lot already. In the last 3 months, we had several meetings where experts and specialists were discussing relevant issues. We conducted a workshop conducted by Alibaba Health. On the 17th of June, heads of regulatory bodies in charge of healthcare had a meeting and they approved a joint action plan for member countries to counter the pandemic in the region in the most efficient manner. On the 7th of June, we had a webinar hosted by our Chinese partner, where we discussed prevention and measures targeted at responding to COVID-19. We discussed technology and other measures. And on the 8th of July, within the framework of our preparation for the ministers' meeting, we have agreed to develop a consolidated document to exchange best practices to prevent further spread of COVID-19. We are talking about fight against plague. So we created a coordination body in order to be able to fight COVID-19 spread in the region. We have a draft document developed by Uzbek and Tajik parties, and this has been voiced and discussed during the MFA ministers meeting. This is a good mechanism for further steps for early detection, prompt response, and mitigation of negative effects of pandemic. Very soon, a summit of heads of states of SCO member countries will take place in St. Petersburg, where heads of states are going to discuss such measures that help prevent further spread of COVID-19. So, in conclusion, I would like to say that taking into account the severity of the ongoing coronavirus pandemic, it is critical to coordinate our actions and support each other in order to succeed and stop spread of coronavirus. This is a practical mechanism, and this meeting of health ministers is very important. Its role is becoming bigger, and I'm sure that the proposals and initiatives discussed today will help improve efficiency and improve multilateral cooperation in healthcare. Thank you very much, and I wish you every success. Thank you very much. We would like to thank Vladimir Norev. We think that signing a memorandum of understanding is very important, and as you said, coordination and support in such difficult times is critical for us. So the next speaker I would like to give floor to is the director of the regional WHO branch, Hans Kluge. Looks like he is in a very nice place. All green, fresh air, so over to you.
Глубоко уважаемый Михаил Альбертович, министр здравоохранения Федерации, глубоко уважаемый министр, прежде всего, мне хотелось бы поблагодарить моего уважаемого друга Михаила Альбертовича и Всеобъемлющую организацию сотрудничества за вашу миссию в качестве устроителей этого своевременного мероприятия. Я также выражаю благодарность
I would also like to express my gratitude to SCO member states for their joint fight against COVID-19 pandemic and for your demonstration of solidarity towards each other and towards other countries of the world. Besides, I would like to congratulate your frontline medical personnel and heroes who are fighting every day.
Vaše действия служат да
Indeed,
доказателство
what you are
само
doing is another
причин за
evidence,
тази
is another proof of why we have
взаимно
created
доверие
SEO.
и съдействовать
We are
сътрудничеству во имя
Establishing
более
trust, we are
благополучного
improving cooperation, and we are creating a better
мира.
future.
Именно государства члены ШОС выступили
In
призывом
SEO member
предпринять
states,
энергичные и координированию многосторонних усилий,
for
в
discussing
рамках которых Всемирная организация здравоохранения
and
играет
conservation of efforts,
важную роль.
where WHO is playing a great
Глубоко
role.
уважаемые министры, готов поделиться с вами первыми
Esteemed
тремя
ministers, I'd be
полезными
happy
уроками
to share the 3 key
наших
lessons
действий в
that
ответ
we
на инфекцию COVID.
developed in response to COVID-19 pandemic.
Урок первый. Международные
Lesson number
стандарты
1.
имеют
International
огромное
cooperation
значение.
and solidarity is
Никто
very
не будет
important.
чувствовать себя в
No one
безопасности
is going
до
to feel
тех пор,
safe
пока
be safe.
безопасности не будет каждый.
until
Вместе
everyone
с
and
мы продолжим упорно трудиться с целью
so we'll keep
добиться
working hard in order
справедливого
to
доступа к
achieve
лекарственным средствам и вакцинам
access to vaccines and medical
и
supplies.
оставить без
We don't want
внимания.
to leave anyone behind.
Мир с нетерпением ждет
The
результатов клинических испытаний
Is
вакцин
waiting for
и
the
лекарств в
final
ваших странах
tests
для
in your
достижения
countries.
равноправного доступа и победы над
We
вирусом.
Waiting for this in order to be able to make vaccine available to everyone. I'm very proud of you.
Мы
Lesson number 2.
должны выбирать между здоровьем
We
и
don't need to choose
экономикой.
between health and
Без
health.
здоровья не будет и экономики.
No health, no
В
economy.
настоящее время мы проводим
Presently,
целенаправленную политику,
we are
вырабатывая
on the targeted policies.
рекомендации по охране передачи среди населения,
Recommendations for
по поддержанию
all the countries
национальной
in order to
экономики
prevent further
и
spread of
систем
coronavirus.
образования.
And we are also working on recommendations to
Является замечательным примером того, когда руководство страны
Russian Federation is a really good example where the government of the country has responded immediately to the pandemic
населения.
and has supported its population.
Урок третий.
Lesson number 3.
Мощной системе здравоохранения
Even the most powerful healthcare system
подготовленными. Нам
can
нужна
be
прочная система
unprepared
здравоохранения,
for such
основанная
pandemic.
на прочном
We need
кирпичном
a
звере
better healthcare
с
system
налаженными функциями
based
охраны
on
общественного здоровья.
safety, security, and the
Глубоко
crisis.
уважаемые министры, мои видения перспективные используются
Esteemed ministers,
экономики благополучия. Когда
I think that there are several important factors.
угрожаем каждому систему
At
социального
the
защиты
moment, we
и
have
содействия
big threats
экологической
that we're faced with.
устойчивости.
That is why we need to think about environmental sustainability. And the
Расположены в Москве
WHO has branches
в Алматы,
in many countries, including in Moscow
медико-санитарной помощи,
and
в Стамбуле,
in Almaty, in
обеспечение
Istanbul.
готовности к чрезвычайным ситуациям
These branches are prepared to respond to emergency situation and provide required medical support.
подспорьем
And this is a great help for SEO member countries to succeed in their
Конечно,
fight.
большое спасибо
Thank you
за
so
вашу
much
решительную поддержку
for
мандата
your
ВОЗ.
decisive support of
Мы
WHO
готовы
mandate.
укрепить
We
наши
are ready
проблемы,
to strengthen our
чтобы еще
governance
лучше
in
обслуживать
order
вас.
to even better service you.
Вместе мы становимся сильнее.
All together, we
Желаю
get stronger.
всем крепкого
I wish
здоровья.
every success to each of you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mr. Hans Kluge. We appreciate very much your role and your efforts along the lines of responding to COVID-19. I'd like to note at the same time that the pandemic, you support and facilitate the fight against NCDs, and we know that in order to improve the health of our people, of our citizens, we cannot focus all the efforts only on fighting against one disease, because the healthcare organizations have to take care of all the patients, including the ones which cannot be regarded and considered secondary. And now I'm passing the floor to the head of the Observer Nation, Minister of Healthcare of Iran. Mr. Osmani, over to you. Iran, over to you.
Honorable Chair and distinguished Minister of Health, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to extend my utmost appreciation to the Russian Federation for organizing of this important program to bring to education our listeners during the implementation of the fight against COVID-19. The international community, including Afghanistan, is facing the greatest public health threat. The COVID-19 pandemic has significantly disrupted the living systems in communities and overwhelmed the health systems and governments. It also has a serious impact on social, economy, and health system of Afghanistan. His Excellency the President of Afghanistan has introduced and led a set of the whole health approaches to fight against COVID-19 in the country. His Excellency the President of Afghanistan delegated unprecedented administrative and financial powers to the Ministry of the Public Health and Professional Governance to fight effectively and efficiently against COVID-19. There has been multi-sectoral coordination and collaboration both at central and provincial levels that proved to be very effective. In addition, the civil society organizations, including mass media, played a critical role in community awareness and risk mitigation throughout the country. So far, we have tested around 83,000 individuals, and out of which around 55,000 confirmed cases all over the country. And with the implementation of our testing capacity, we believe that the total number of positive cases are higher than numbers confirmed by lab. We have 11 laboratories that have completed the standards to perform COVID-19 tests. In total, the lab have the capacity of 2,500 to 3,000 tests in a day. The Ministry of the Public Health of Afghanistan is still working to expand the COVID-19 diagnostic services to other provinces and increase the number of labs in all over the country. According to our cabinet strategy for management of COVID-19 patients is centered on severity of the disease. We recently decided to provide home-based treatment to patients with mild and moderate cases. Severe cases will be admitted to the hospitals for the required management. We also shifted our strategy from allocation of particular hospitals for management of COVID-19 patients to management of COVID-19 cases in all health facilities. Our health facilities all over the country will be ready to manage the COVID-19 cases, and our health personnel are equipped with protective kits while providing health services to COVID-19 patients. The current epidemiological trend shows a decline in COVID-19 cases in Afghanistan. The positivity rate is declining, the number of daily cases is on top, and our recovery rates are higher compared to positive cases in COVID-19. Knowing about the prevalence of COVID-19 patients and the real number of people infected with coronavirus in Afghanistan remain important for Ministry of Public Health for future planning and taking preventive measures in the community. Therefore, with the support of international development partners, we plan to conduct a survey in Afghanistan to assess the COVID-19 situation in the country. The initial findings of the survey suggest that 50% of Afghanistan population was infected with the novel strain of coronavirus. Moreover, in Kabul, the capital, the infection rate for COVID-19 was around 50%. In addition, the number of cases were higher in urban areas compared to rural areas. Like the other countries, Afghanistan faced the second wave of coronavirus pandemic too. And for this reason, the Ministry of the Public Health of Afghanistan wants to have the experience that we had during the first wave of the prevention of COVID-19. As the level of education and health awareness at community level is low, many community members should effectively comply with the recommendations provided by the Ministry of Public Health. Public ignore some of the common preventive measures like wearing masks, practicing hand hygiene, and maintaining social distance. We have placed our effort to reach the communities through different approaches, including involvement of the religious leaders. In addition, through a sound and reliable mechanism, I permitted the private sector to assist the engaged in diagnosis and management of COVID-19 patients. We have prepared a unified treatment protocols for COVID-19 patients, and it will be followed in all health facilities in Afghanistan. The case definition for diagnosis of COVID-19 has been revised. As you are aware, Afghanistan has limited capacity to perform mass testing for the patients. That's why we recommend diagnosis of patients based on clinical patients in those places that we do not have mass testing capacity. The COVID-19 was a good lesson for us to learn as not about the existence, weakness in the health system of the country. Most of our hospitals face oxygen shortages, and sometimes we are not able to provide oxygen for critically ill patients. We are lacking oxygen production plants. The Ministry of Public Health of Afghanistan is now preparing all facilities to respond to COVID-19 patients. We have extended our needs less to our partners in the health sector for providing assistance in equipping our hospitals with oxygen production plants. Fighting corruption in the health sector remains a significant importance to the Ministry of the Public Health. In order to combat COVID-19 pandemic in Afghanistan and address all other health problems in the country, we need to combat corruption in all levels of the Ministry of the Public Health. I have announced zero tolerance policy for combating the corruption. I want to assure the international partners that all donation assistance to the immigrants will reach to those who deserve and require it. We believe that the fight against COVID-19 requires a coordinated response backed by global and regional solidarity. Extensive investment in research and development is critical to produce an effective vaccine treatment for COVID-19. I express my sincere gratitude to all partners who are standing by us in this difficult time. Their continued technical guidance, provision of life-saving supplies, and personal protective equipment, capacity building, surveillance, and support in establishing the expanding diagnostic capacity for COVID-19 response. At the end, I'd like to reiterate that to overcome COVID-19 pandemic and elevate the health, economic, and social impact of COVID-19 pandemic in the country, we need to establish a strong regional coordination and cooperation. We should exchange our experience, assist in increasing technical capacities, conduct joint research, and provide all kinds of significant support to the government that they needed. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for your contribution. And we're joined by the First Deputy Minister of Healthcare of Belarus, Mr. Pinevich. Over to you. Belarus, are you with us? Can you hear us? thanks for the kind invitation to participate in that. And we thank the Russian Federation for arranging of this very important meeting. The pandemic is not over yet. And altogether we are discussing certain lessons learned, and we'd like to draw your attention to some of the lessons which we have learned. And there are three main such lessons. First and foremost, the efficient response may be only when we show a real commitment to fighting against COVID-19. The second thing is that the pandemic showed that we have to have a one-stop shop organization to fight against that. And the WHO acts as such, and the European Bureau of WHO, in our case, provides every necessary support. As the observer, we note the role of the SCO, which is spearheading these efforts. This is the third such meeting of the healthcare ministers. I'd like to stress the fact that the national context is an important factor when we develop the strategy to fight against COVID-19. We are convinced, and our experience shows that Belarus has chosen the right line. We have preserved the economy and livelihoods of our citizens, and we did not have to choose between the health of the people and the economic recovery, because the top priority certainly belongs to the public health care. And as I said, President Lukashenko monitors the situation there personally, and a big burden has been placed on the healthcare system, but we managed to help with that, and we prevented the uncontrolled spreading of the infection. We held epidemiological surveillance and research, and therefore we managed to introduce smart lockdowns, necessary testing, and this will be done until the pandemic is over. We have developed the timely response plans. Every plan actually is supported and pinpointed by certain resources. These scenarios were tested in the real-time situations. Before, we were criticized for having too many beds in our hospitals, and I put that in brackets because the number of beds in the hospitals since the outbreak of the pandemic helped us to provide necessary assistance to all COVID and pneumonia patients. We would like to thank you for the supplies of reagents and medical supplies. We have launched our own COVID-19 tests, and we did 1,220,000 tests, and we have deployed 50 labs, which as a network covered the whole of the country. We have 66,000 COVID positive patients, and by 23rd of July, by yesterday, 59,000 of patients recovered. Sadly, the situation needs more attention to be paid to that, but we can state that we are getting out of that pandemic, and our inpatient centers are working to normal. During the pandemic, we managed to provide specialized healthcare assistance to all our patients. So it means that our cancer centers and cardiovascular specialized centers did not have to be transformed into COVID hospitals. So once again, let me stress that without total lockdown, sticking to the social distancing and other measures, we managed to comply with the WHO recommendations. I hope that our experience shows that being at different stages of the pandemic spreading, we see that there are some common approaches and initial algorithms of how to respond, and these measures are quite efficient for our region as well. Thank you so much for this opportunity to deliver our information, and thank you so much to participate in such an August meeting. Thank you. Thank you. We see that Belarus works actively in terms of prevention and treating of COVID patients. We believe that you have great success, and we are ready to continue our cooperation with you. Advisor to the Minister of Islamic Republic of Iran, Mohammad Asay, over to you.
Yeah, thank you very much. Can you hear me well? Hello? Hello, can you hear me well? Okay, let me read this short statement on behalf of Dr. Saeed Namaki, Minister of Health and Medical Education of Islamic Republic of Iran. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, at the outset, let me appreciate Shanghai Cooperation Organization for such initiative that definitely will result in better delivery of the healthcare, social and economic status of the member states during the COVID-19 era. We all know that majority of countries are doing their best to control COVID-19 based on their health system infrastructure and capacities, ensuring delivery of essential health services in line with the framework of primary healthcare. However, the preliminary information shows that immunization coverage, tuberculosis and HIV/AIDS diagnosis and care of patients with non-communicable disease, including some preventive, curative and rehabilitative services, are affected due to COVID-19 pandemic. The recent joint report of WHO and UNICEF warned alarming declines in vaccination during COVID-19. This happens due to disruption in the delivery and uptake of immunization services caused by the COVID-19. Excellencies, the SCO member states, having some common cultural, economic and health-related challenges, that sharing information and experiences can contribute in our joint efforts to respond to COVID-19 and even any other emergencies in future. Our goal must be in line with moving towards self-reliance in production of vaccines, personal protective equipment and medicines to respond to COVID-19. There are many capacities and opportunities in our countries that is still untapped, and the SCO can encourage our cooperation and partnership in strengthening health system response based on primary health care. Dear colleagues, majority of the SCO member states having a strong history of primary health care, a tool that must be used efficiently in reducing morbidities and mortalities due to COVID-19. The Islamic Republic of Iran benefited from active engagement of primary health care in active full screening of the whole population of 80 million in a short period of time, identifying high-risk population, suspected cases, perform testing at the primary health care facilities, and reduce workload of the hospitals. Follow-up of diagnosed cases through primary health care and community engagement was a key intervention that has successfully implemented within catchment population of each primary health care facility. We will be delighted to share these experiences with the SCO members. Your Excellencies, if this trend continues, it will reverse hard-earned achievements in many health indicators, including immunization coverage, communicable and non-communicable diseases. Therefore, I urge member states to invest in strengthening health system capacity with priority given to the primary health care integrated approach, promoting public-private partnership, community empowerment, and health in all policies. These are among main strategies that we need to continue in order to fulfill our commitment targets of GPW30. Honorable Ministers, allow me to share the following recommendations for your kind consideration. Number one, the SCO Secretariat, in line with WHO and UNICEF statements, may request head of the states emphasizing on the importance of continuum of care to the at-risk population, especially ensuring high coverage of immunization, family care, growth monitoring, and NCDs, alongside the current efforts to fight against COVID-19. In this regard, the head of the state should be reminded about the importance of investing on primary health care and utilizing primary health care as a tool to combat COVID-19. Number two, this is the time that member states should think about the redesigning hospitals and primary health care facilities that were built in the 1950s or 1960s. We should think about creating alternative routes through hospitals and primary health care facilities for suspected and confirmed cases of COVID-19 and how to provide ventilation and better spacing in the waiting areas. Based on some evidences around, 60% of the cases got infected from the health facilities. Number three, the SCO should facilitate exchange of experiences between countries, particularly innovations related to the strategy and options to deliver primary health care services to fight COVID-19 and at the same time securing investments to address social determinants of health. Economic status of the households should not be ignored, and informal jobs must be supported by the country's high authorities. Number four, we are here to share experiences, knowledge, and technical capacities among SCO, which are countless in technical terms. We need solidarity and unified initiative under the global leadership and technical support of WHO. Equitable and timely access to an efficient and cost-effective vaccines is crucial. Therefore, I would like to call upon SCO Excellency Health Ministers to support COVAX and other SCO vaccine initiatives to ensure a rapid end to COVID pandemic. Ladies and gentlemen, once again I appreciate the initiative of the SCO Secretariat, Government of Russia, active participation of the members and observing countries, and especially WHO efforts to demonstrate solidarity in fighting against public health threats. I thank you.
I think that right now, following our agenda, we have to take into account and consider all the proposals, suggestions and ideas and update the structure of our healthcare systems. And we need to bear in mind that there are some new requirements because challenges, threats are transforming, so we need different approaches, different views, and we are already doing this. So first of all, I would like to show all of you a review of best practices and best measures. This is a review devoted to measures that are being undertaken by the SCO member states to prevent further spread and entry of COVID-19. I'm sure you're well aware of the existence of this review. One small clarification. On the front page, we need to write 2020 and specify the month, because our practices, our measures are changing rapidly, and I think that by the end of this year we will have an even bigger review and even bigger and longer list of measures. So we will probably be able to update this version. So we are the health ministers, need to make some sort of final statement. This is a statement of the health ministers, taking into account the spread of the new coronavirus and following the common goal and objective, and in order to prevent the threat to health and safety and well-being of the population of SAO member states, we are voting for joining forces and fighting COVID-19 together. With a great concern, we admit that there is a threat that we're currently faced with, and this threat is called COVID-19. It has started in the end of 2019 and is still spreading across the world. We admit that pandemic COVID-19 requires global response and needs to be based on our joint work. We are convinced that fighting the new pandemic coronavirus requires a multilateral and well thought through decisions and solutions. And we need to work together with the United Nations and WHO and many other international organizations in order to be efficient in our fight against COVID-19. We are eager to share accurate data and information related to the new coronavirus. We are prepared to exchange information, share our experience, scientific solutions, and we welcome this brochure, this review of best practices, best measures to fight coronavirus in order to promote best practices and promote positive experience. We think that COVID-19 pandemic has stressed the importance of the agreement between SAO member states signed in 2011. Special focus needs to be on further steps, efficiency of our joint work and identification and response to such threats in the future. That is why we need to strengthen our coordination and respond to such threats and pandemics within the framework of SAO and in particular health ministers meeting. We be happy to keep working together, and we express our gratitude and support to all medical specialists, doctors, scientists, researchers around the world working in harsh conditions caused by pandemic COVID-19. Dear friends, to sum up our today's meeting and the final statement, I suggest we approve this statement, and I think that today we have discussed and approved a number of very important documents. So thank you, and I would like to thank all the ministers and your teams for all that you have done and for everything that we are going to do in the future. And we really hope that we'll keep working together as fruitfully, as efficiently, different formats, and I must say that preliminary we have scheduled our next meeting for October. However, I think that we will have to clarify the exact date depending on the situation. So once again, thank you very much for your active participation and position. Thank you. And now, I'd like to announce press briefing. Thank you very much to all the participants. This concludes our meeting. Thank you.
Hello, hello. Mic test. Hello, 1, 2, 3, 4. Hello, hello.